One of the elements with regard to sustainability that FM Systems is currently working on is new features within the FMS Insights product that looks at utilisation compared with energy consumption and emissions data to see the impact of utilisation on those two factors, which can be extremely useful as you look to your sustainability goals and you drive towards that net zero goal that most organisations are now having to achieve. One of the big drivers for environmental impact is related to energy consumption and emissions data and how much of that is generated through things like building operations accounting for 25% of global carbon emissions, and better understanding how people use the space can help understand and drive instructions on how HVAC systems should work. And from an employee well-being perspective, again, understanding the environmental conditions within a building has a major impact on employee well-being. We noticed it through the COVID period. As we came out of COVID, clean air are things that employees are really interested in at the moment, and any organisation that can show that they are addressing that can only have a positive impact on employee well-being. ESG for me is a funny thing. It's environmental, social and governance. From a facilities management perspective, it really, to me, it's just the environmental element of ESG. And there's a lot of talk in the industry that ESG should potentially be split up into three different things: environmental, social and governance, because environmental is a lot easier to measure, whereas social and governance is not as easy to report on. It's not a defined data set, where environmentals are defined. You can measure your environmental impact. So ESG in the corporate real estate is different. I think then in that instance, E, S and G are all relevant because at corporate level, there are reporting things that need to be reported. The new SEC directive that's coming out is saying that people will have to report on these particular public bodies. So I think from a corporate real estate perspective, it is more relevant than it is from a facilities management perspective. But as I've already said, environmental element is definitely important to the facilities management. I think hybrid plays quite a significant part in an ESG strategy. One of the things we've seen since COVID is hybrid. I think personally it's here to stay. There's a lot of things going on about hybrid, in the next 1 to 3 years could change, but I think it's here to stay. But hybrid means we use our buildings in a different way. So that has an impact on the environmental factors of the building. The more we use the building, the more carbon we generate, the more energy we're using. So I think understanding that hybrid policy, and it's not one policy fits all, different policies will suit different organisations, but I think hybrid does play a major role in that. So I think as we look to the future, hybrid is here to stay. In my personal opinion, without a shadow of a doubt, it's here to stay. So what organisations need to now understand is what impact that hybrid work has on their real estate. Do they need as much? Maybe not. If they don't need as much, can that have an impact on their CO2 emissions and things like that? I think from a technology perspective, AI is going to play a major role in how we use or how we predict we are going to use our buildings going into the future. So I think that's going to be a major thing that we'll see growing exponentially over the coming years. AI is all well and good, but you really need the data to feed that AI. Without the data, AI is useless, really. If you have not got the data to feed it, how can it learn, how can it make those predictions? So I think organisations really need to understand what data they have, and where they feel they are lacking, they need to put things in place to have that data. We did a report 2 years ago that basically said most organisations lacked the utilisation and spatial data that they need to make informed decisions. And I think because we're seeing an evolving of the workspace and how we use it, that data even 2 years ago that they did have is probably no longer relevant because people are changing the way they work. So I think understanding the data and making sure you have the correct data to feed those technologies going into the future.